We also welcome the members of the public who have joined this meeting via audio conference. There's also an option to view the meeting live streamed. Members of the public can find the link in the notices section on the Atlanta Housing website. The live streaming link is also contained on Atlanta Housing Board docs. Please be advised that any members of the public who wish to address the board during the time for public comment period must have signed up on the public speaker sign-up sheet at the front door of the meeting room prior to the time the meeting is called to order, or have sent in a comment by the time set in the notice of the meeting. A link to the meeting agenda, board resolutions, and presentation materials are available for review by the public by accessing the link on the Atlanta Housing website at www.atlantahousing.org/notices.
All right, good afternoon, and apologies for my tardiness, but my name is Larry Stewart, and I serve as the chair of the Board of Commissioners. I'm now calling this regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, to order. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd, and 10 p.m. Will the interim general counsel take the roll to determine a quorum for this meeting?
Chairman Stewart?
Here.
Commissioner Kirsch?
Here.
Commissioner Alvarado?
Here.
Commissioner Elliott? Commissioner Elliott? Commissioner Faruqi?
Here.
Commissioner Hooker? Commissioner Hooker? Commissioner Martin?
Here.
Mr. Chair, there is a quorum present.
All right, thank you. The agenda has been presented to the board for review and comment. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? None. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda? And a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so moved by Commissioner Kearse and seconded by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, hearing no nays or abstentions, the motion is carried.
The minutes of the regular Board of Commissioners meeting held on July 25th, 2024 are before the board for review and comment. Are there any proposed corrections to the minutes of the regular Board of Commissioners meeting?
All right. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on July 25th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so moved by Commissioner Faruqi and seconded by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion related to this motion to approve the minutes of the July 25th, 2024 meeting? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right, hearing no opposition, did everybody say aye? Okay, just making sure. I didn't hear it on that side. Any opposed? I didn't hear any abstentions or opposition, so the motion is carried. We will now move into our public comment period. Have any members of the public signed up to speak or provided comments in advance of this meeting?
Mr. Chair, no members of the public have signed up to speak, nor did we receive any comments to present to the board in advance of the meeting.
All right, well then this ends the public comment portion of the meeting. Move to resolutions. All right, please be advised that the Board of Commissioners September 22nd, 2021 meeting, the board approved a consent agenda protocol. Today, there are 11 resolutions appearing below that receive unanimous votes of approval at the Board of Commissioners Real Estate Committee held on September 18th, 2024, and our Board of Commissioners Real Estate Committee and Operations meetings that were held on October 16th, 2024. The collective group of resolutions on the consent agenda will be approved by a single motion to adopt all resolutions and the affirmative majority vote of the Board of Commissioners. If discussion on any resolution or resolutions is desired by a commissioner, the commissioner must make that desire known to the chair immediately following the reading of the consent agenda items, and the resolution will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Or at the discretion of the chair, a discussion may occur prior to the vote of the consent agenda resolutions. Moreover, if a commissioner simply wants his or her vote to be specifically recorded on any particular item, separate votes may be taken on the resolutions. Will the interim general counsel identify the 11 resolutions on the consent agenda for the record?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Before you are copies of the following consent agenda resolutions. Resolution number 2450. Atlanta Housing seeks authorization of business terms to submit a mixed finance proposal and a disposition application to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and provide a loan commitment and option to ground lease to support the Bowen Homes Phase 2 4% low-income housing tax credit application. Resolution number 2451, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to take all actions necessary to enter into an additional services agreement with Bowen District Developers LLC for Wilkes Circle infrastructure. Resolution number 2452, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization of business terms to submit a mixed finance development proposal to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and to provide a loan commitment to support the 4% low-income housing tax credit application for the 350 development. Resolution number 2453, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to take all actions necessary to submit a disposition application and pre-development loan proposal to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and to make a pre-development loan for the Carver Homeownership Joint Development. Resolution number 2454, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to enter into an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts with qualified consultant firms and to provide historic preservation and cultural resources consulting and architectural services. Resolution number 2455, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to extend the Home Flex Assistance Agreement for Campbellstone Apartments. Resolution number 2456, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to extend the Home Flex Assistance Agreement for Odyssey Villas. Resolution number 2457, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to enter into a Home Flex Haven Agreement for 40 permanent supportive housing units at the Melody. Resolution number 2458, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to adopt an amended and restated Statement of Corporate Policies. Resolution number 2459, Atlanta Housing seeks authorization to amend an agreement with United Way of Greater Atlanta, Inc. for short-term housing assistance services. And resolution number 2460, the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, seeks authorization to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Atlanta Independent School System and extend the special voucher program for homeless students and their families.
That was a mouthful. All right. May I have a motion to consider, adopt, and approve the consent agenda containing resolutions 2450, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60.
So move.
All right. May I have a second?
Second.
All right. So moved by Commissioner Alvarado and seconded by Commissioner Faruqi. Is there any discussion related to the consent agenda resolutions? All right. Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. I didn't hear any opposition or abstention, so the motion carried.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, before you is a copy of the resolution number 2461, where the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia seeks authorization to elect or appoint the Board of Directors of certain affiliates of the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia.
May I have a motion to consider resolution 2461?
So moved. I'll be
maybe-
the second.
All right, you'll be the second. All right. So moved by Commissioner Alvarado and seconded by Commissioner Kirsch. Ms. Washington.
Yes, and I'll just make a brief presentation. This resolution is familiar to the board, as it is similar to the resolution approved last year, appointing the commissioners to the board of directors of the affiliate organizations. The only change from the resolution approved last year was to appoint Commissioner Martin, who was newly joining the board after that resolution was approved last year, and replacing the late Commissioner Harris on those boards. You're familiar with the 9 affiliate entities, but I'm happy to provide any description or detail. If not, I will take any questions, or you can proceed with approving that resolution.
All right. Are there any questions or comments by our commissioners? All right. It's pretty routine, so I'm glad we can move forward. For a vote, then, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right. Hearing no opposition and no abstentions, the motion is carried. And so we don't have any reports. Is there a report from our president and CEO? All right. Terry, you have the floor. CEO Lee, I should say. The CHO.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Board of Commissioners. I want to thank you, as always, for your dedication, but also your service to Atlanta Housing. We sincerely appreciate your leadership as well as the collaborative partnership as we move to take our agency to the next level. Second slide, please. Today's action, and again, we want to thank you for your work, not just today, but the work that's really done within the committee meetings. Today's action really continued to further the strategic plan goals, specifically around goal number one, 10,000 units. The actions approved today by the board constitute about 330 units that we're moving forward from a creation standpoint. Of interesting note is that Bowen Phase 2 was included in the resolutions that you approved during committee as well as today. And so we're moving forward with Bowen as well as other projects. On the creation side, we're constituting about 90% affordable units being developed. On the preservation aspect, again, and that's really preserving the opportunity affordability through our Home Flex program, we're moving forward with about 414 units with 99% affordability. One of the projects property developments rather, I would like to bring to your attention that was approved was the Melody, and that furthers the agency's partnership with the city in eradicating homelessness and creating sustainable and stable housing solutions for permanent supportive housing. All told, from a development aspect, we're investing about $100.5 million in development activity with an actual investment from Atlanta Housing Resources of around $11 million. We're furthering our partnerships as well as enhancing housing opportunities for our residents through two partnerships. One very important partnership with United Way. It gives us the ability to continue the Home Again program where we're providing emergency housing resources for families that are threatened with homelessness, as well as furthering our partnership with the Atlanta Public School District and being able to provide resources for families that are threatened with homelessness that have children within APS. I do think it's important to note that 20% of the population for APS are actually our residents. And so we want to make sure that we continue to lift up our children and youth that are within the system, within the APS school system. And then last, but definitely not least, just continue to strengthen our operations under goal number 6. There was an amendment to our statement of corporate policies that really fine-tuned and enhanced our policy, but really made them more concise, streamlined, and included new programs that we're moving forward with, specifically the Emergency Housing Voucher Program under the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Next slide, please. So we had an exciting 2 months, and I want to thank the board for their participation in the activities that the agency was either able to lead and or co-sponsor, one being the Developers of Color Summit. We worked with the HUD Regional Office as well as the City of Atlanta to really bring forth opportunities, real estate development opportunities to developers of color. That was a very well-attended event. It was actually attended also by our interim HUD secretary, and Atlanta Housing was represented by our Chief Operating Officer, Dwayne Vaughn, as well as our Senior Vice President of Real Estate Plan Development, Maya Hadari. I also believe Commissioner Alvarado, as well as some of his colleagues, were able to attend and participate in the event. On last Friday, we opened our learning spaces, which is a partnership with United Way. But really what was really so significant, learning spaces will be at Roosevelt Hall, and it's centered in the core of the University Homes redevelopment opportunity. But what was beautiful about that day was being able to sit on the floor with a number of our children and actually ask them to imagine who they would be when they grow up. There was one book that was being read as to who do you want to be? Do you want to be a fireman? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a teacher? No one wanted to be the chair of the housing authority, sir. But it was very, very exciting. It was very exciting to see how our children are imagining who they'll be when they grow up. But more importantly, the fact that we recognize that we do more than just provide housing, but we really provide a self-sufficiency environment for our children to be able to thrive. We also had held in August our landlord symposium. This was our second annual landlord symposium for landlords that participate in our Housing Trust Voucher Program, really centered around our landlords that participate on the tenant-based voucher side. I want to thank our Vice Chair, Sarah Kirsch, for her participation and for her opening remarks. They were very well received. And again, the support we received from our Board of Commissioners is just phenomenal, and we appreciate that. We also want to thank our Chief Housing and Real Estate Officer, Dr. Alan Ferguson, as well as our Senior Vice President of Housing Trust Voucher Program, Tracy Jones, for their leadership. I have received numerous messages from landlords and individuals that participated on that day, and they continue to thank Atlanta Housing for just making it easier to do business. We're not perfect, but we're striving to get there, and so I really want to thank the staff as well for their dedication. And now, Santa for a day. I have volunteered to be Santa Claus this year. I have volunteered to be Santa Claus, and I'm really excited about that. And I'm excited about it because it represents the opportunity for Atlanta Housing to give back to our families and our participants. The Santa for a Day program is where we work with our children and youth to write letters to Santa Claus as to what their wish list will be. To date, we've had about 952 children and youth participate, and we have many more opportunities. We have at least 4 more activities where they'll be able to write letters. And they're not just writing letters themselves, but we're standing right alongside them and their parents as they're determining what they would like to have for Christmas. Now, every youth or child that has come through any of our venues for Santa for a Day have also received a book, because we have books that we're giving out through our Book Rich Environment program. And so we provided books to our children as well as to their parents, because we want to make sure that we make those opportunities available. So I'm excited. I think I'm more excited about serving as Santa Claus than anything else. But I'm really excited, again, about the investment that we're allowed to make into our families. And that really comes, again, from the work that you all do on a monthly and, quite honestly, a daily basis. Next slide, please. Okay. In addition to somebody trying to see if I'm available for a meeting, we have several events that are coming up, including on I believe on Saturday, our Fall Ever Young Senior Fall Festival, and it'll be held at Greenbrier Mall. We're also continuing with our Fall Harvest Festival at different venues or different apartment complexes that we own. What's really important, though, is that we're moving forward with our jurisdiction-wide council meeting, and that's the council meeting of our resident association leaders. That will be on October 30th. In November, I want to just make sure I note the 2 things. One, the senior high-rise Thanksgiving luncheons that will be held and facilitated from November 4th to November 22nd. We will make sure that is on all the commissioners' calendars. We encourage you and invite you to participate if your schedule allows, as well as we're doing a turkey giveaway again this year. And we'll be doing that turkey giveaway on November 23rd in the parking lot of the Big Bethel Church. And so we are continuing, not just moving forward with delivering housing resources, but we're really continuing to lift up activities for our families, because we believe that that is important. What's not on my report, though, but I think it's important for me to note that since we last met in July, we've had a total of 4 closing on residential development opportunities. One will be the closing on 450 Hank Aaron. That is the proactive acquisition that the agency undertook and that the board approved, I believe, in July, of the old Ramada Hotel that is in the Summer Hill community. We also closed on the Proctor. The Proctor is a development that's along the west side that's funded in collaboration with our other public sector partners, Invest Atlanta, as well as the AUDC. And if you recall, this is the first development opportunity where we utilize tenant-based vouchers to monetize the capital stack. And so we have a land use restriction agreement which will allow 41 of our tenant-based voucher participants or households to be able to reside at that luxury development opportunity. And then we also, last week, closed on one of our co-investment transaction, which is Stone Hogan Villas. That's done in connection with TriStar, Margie Stackmeyer's group. And so that was the first phase of that development opportunity, which constitutes 192 affordable senior housing units. And by 5 o'clock today, we'll be closing on another transaction for the second phase, which is Stone Hogan Flats. And that's a new family mixed income development opportunity with about 256 units. And so we have a lot of activity that's moving forward. There's a lot of coordination across the agency to really support the robust real estate agenda that we put forth this fiscal year. Next slide, please. Again, I want to thank each of you for your service. Also, would like to thank our team, our entire team for Atlanta Housing, for the commitment and service they have every day. And I would like to welcome back our CFO, Fenice Taylor. She has been out for some time, and so we want to thank her and welcome her back to Atlanta Housing and to just continuing the partnership and helping us lift up so much that we need to do to make sure we serve our families. With that, Board of Commissioners and Chair and Vice Chair, that is my report. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Thank you so much.
Look, that was your time to get Terry to do some work. All right. I was like, that was your time to give us some more work. All good. I think then, with that said, are there any further comments as we close out this meeting from our fellow commissioners?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I wanted to make two comments. One is that we have been working with the legal team, and by we, I mean the committee that I lead for finance and audit, on updating the code of conduct and ethics policy, both for employees and also for really being thoughtful about how we address conflicts on the Board of Commissioners. We have a lot of activity happening, a lot of deals going through, and just making sure that we are looking at best practices and ensuring that our governance around this is tight, both at the board level and the leadership team and the employee level. This felt like the right time to do that. So with that said, I will be circulating a draft of the policy that Interim General Counsel Lisa Washington and some outside counsel has advised on and updated. So please watch for that in your inbox. Please share feedback. It will be coming forward in the next cycle, next month, through committee and to our full Board of Commissioners. So just wanted to make that comment. And then secondly, I wanted to ask the Atlanta Housing team to think about something that has been weighing heavily for me. Last year, Mayor Dickens announced that he wanted our city, Atlanta, to be the best city in the country to raise a child. At the same time, we know that a quarter of the children in our city live in poverty. And we also know that there is a 4% chance, based on research years ago, that a child born in the bottom quartile makes it to the top quartile, right? So economic and social mobility is very low. And one of the big bridges in the aspiration for our city to be the best place to raise a child, and the other statistics I talked about, is housing security. We also know that in Atlanta public schools, when a family loses housing, their child, if they find housing in another district or another school where a different school is zoned, they end up having to switch schooling. So interrupted schooling is such a huge part of what makes academic, social, and career success difficult for our children in Atlanta public schools. I want to charge our agency to figure out how we can at least use housing vouchers in a way where we prioritize applicants that have a child in Atlanta public schools with good attendance. I ask you, Terry, and your team to come back to this board with a set of recommendations and some thinking around what it would take to do that. We have a long list. We probably have a lot of criteria by which we select which families move to the front of the line. And I want to see households with a child in APS make it there first.
All right. Well said. Anyone else before I close out? I have a few comments, but I'll take them last. All right. All right. Well, go ahead if you want to respond.
No, I just want to thank Commissioner Faruqi for bringing that to the forefront, and we definitely will work to bring those recommendations back to the board. So thank you so much for your intentionality of that.
And Terry, let me say that I'm willing to give my time personally and as a board commissioner to help support this effort, because I know that there are other resources that are part of the solution here. I've talked to a couple of other folks, whether it's public-private partnerships, extra support, but it starts with figuring out, from a process perspective, what needs to happen legally, what we can do, what we can ask applicants to provide as information, what partnership is required through APS. Can we give each one of these kids a Big Brothers Big Sisters mentor? Can we bring other nonprofits to the table? But it is such a gap in economic and social mobility. I want us to do our part.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
All right. So I'll just close by saying, one, I want to thank the staff and the team and the Bronner Group who all hosted us yesterday when we had our retreat. The board retreat had a lot of fruitful discussion. That at the, I think we're at that past the halfway mark in our strategic plan, and we've made a lot of progress. I want to thank the teams that put together the dashboards that we're going to be producing, and so those will help us. Particularly, I know that since we've started the work, we've talked about how we make decisions, and that sometimes it's difficult to make them in the without a backbone of data and analysis to support where we want to go and whether or not the things that we're doing actually are making a difference. And so I know that, Paul and your team, I'm sure shepherded by Dwayne and Terry, we're very appreciative of the time. We also appreciate and want to thank Georgia Power for hosting us there at their beautiful facility yesterday. And so just want to continue to work well in what I think should be, an update of our strategic plan based on what we've got. There's some things that we've already achieved, and so if there are ways that we need to be doing more, I'd like for us to challenge ourselves to continue to do that. So I know that I've already made the charge of coming back with kind of an update based on what we talked about yesterday, but thank everyone who participated and those who supported our leadership in helping make that possible. Because you said such a deep thing, I didn't want to end with a joke, but I do want to know where to send my letter to Santa. So if you can send me your address, CEO Lee, I'd appreciate it. There's some young people, I won't speaking for somebody I know, that would love to be able to have some gifts from Santa. And so with that, I also just wanted to highlight, I know that we had some people who had public comment during our committee sessions. We are going to respond to that, but I did want to say that because we got this beautiful facility and we said it in committee, but we haven't said it in a board meeting, we are thankful for this new space. I know when we first talked about it with our former CEO, Eugene Jones, I didn't have an envision that it would look this great, but it's not about it being comfortable. It is about it being a place that opens up for the public to participate. We want that to happen. We think it makes us better. We think it makes us more accessible, more transparent. And so I want to make sure that people who are watching this virtually know that this is a place that now not only is a place that you can actually feel like you're at home and can contribute and communicate your needs and wants from Atlanta Housing, and whether that needs to come directly to the board or just to the staff team, I definitely want to make sure that people understand that that's why this was done. And I'm excited about what this space will do for us as we move to achieving the goals that we have in our strategic plan and beyond. So I wanted to just thank everyone. I know Tori and his team and all of the technical staffs in the control room that's kind of blacked out that y'all can't see are making this possible. And so I'm very happy about where we are there, and wanted to just make sure I said thank you to all of those, and we look forward to using this space to continue to broadcast the great work of Atlanta Housing. Last thing I know that we did in that meeting, and so we talked a lot about homelessness, right? There were people who were homeless that came to our meeting, and so just as a bookend to what Commissioner Faruqi just mentioned, in this board meeting, we did approve vouchers to APS students. And one of the things that we talked about was the need. So we talked about the demand in that committee meeting being far outweighed from what we're able to provide at this moment, and why it's so important for us to have partnerships. I know that we've hired staff that's going to be focusing on that, and so that's really critical part, because we want to have people join us in trying to expand our reach in that regard, so that no one who's homeless so that no one that's in APS schools is homeless and prevents them from being able to do the best they can in school and to achieve the goals that we want and expect from our youth. And so we are doubling down on that, and so I appreciate you making it more of a challenge to us to continue to figure out how to do more, but we also want to ask our partners to join us in this effort. And so I will just say that publicly, and we will try to put some meat behind that, and we look forward to our partners joining us in that fight. So with that, I don't have any other comments unless anyone else does. All right, well then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion.
All right, we don't need a second. So I will take that. So moved by Commissioner Martin, but also seconded by Commissioner Faruqi. And so I'll take a vote. Is anyone, I guess all in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, so hearing nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. 2:39, record time.
And please stay tuned. We'll be starting the annual meeting momentarily.
Lisa, can you also note who's supposed to be in the subsequent meetings?
Yes.
Because we have, yeah, okay. Oh my God, this is so exciting. I suggested this last year. Okay, fantastic.
Yes, you did. Please consider the following announcements. We welcome the members of the public who have joined us in person in the Pecan Room at Atlanta Housing Headquarters for this annual meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Atlanta Housing. We also welcome the members of the public who have joined this meeting via audio conference. There's an option to view this meeting live streamed, and members of the public can find the link in the notices section on the Atlanta Housing website. The live streaming link is also contained on Atlanta Housing Board Docs. A link to the meeting agenda and any presentation materials are available for view by the public by accessing the link on the Atlanta Housing website at www.atlantahousing.org/notices.
All right. My name is Larry Stewart, and I serve as the chair of the Board of Commissioners. I am calling this annual meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, to order. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. The time is 2:43. Will the interim general counsel, take the roll to determine a quorum for the meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Chairman Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Kirsch,
Here.
Commissioner Alvarado,
Here.
Commissioner Elliott, Commissioner Elliott, Commissioner Faruqi,
Here.
Commissioner Hooker, Commissioner Hooker, Commissioner Martin.
Here.
And Mr. Chair, there is a quorum present.
All right. The agenda has been presented to the board for review and comment. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. So moved by Commissioner Alvarado and seconded by Commissioner Faruqi. Is there any discussion? All right. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right. Hearing no opposition or abstentions, the motion carries. All right. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the annual meeting held on September 27th, 2023?
Second.
All right. So moved by Commissioner Faruqi and seconded by Commissioner Alvarado. Is there any discussion related to the motion to approve the minutes? All right. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. I didn't hear any opposition or any abstentions. The motion is carried.
Commissioners, we will now proceed with the election of the chair. Nominations will be made by the board members from the floor. Please be advised of the following. A nomination does not need a second. A commissioner is permitted to nominate himself or herself. A commissioner cannot nominate more than one person until everyone has had the opportunity to make nominations. A commissioner can decline the nomination during the nominating process.
Okay. Well, I will go ahead and I will nominate from the floor Sarah Kirsch as vice chair. Do it in order? All right, I guess I gotta do chair. Somebody want to nominate a chair? Anybody want to take on the role of chair? Nominate myself.
I will nominate Larry Stewart as chair.
All right. Are there any further nominations for chair? All right, nominations for chair are now closed with Larry being nominated, Larry Stewart nominated for chair. All those in favor of Larry Stewart for chair must say aye.
Aye.
I mean, it was kind of weak there. Aye. All right. All those who are opposed must say no. All right. Hearing no no's.
So, we can now proceed. Oh, I'm sorry, you had one further thing at the very bottom. That's my,
We're okay. The ayes have it, and Commissioner Stewart is elected chair. I guess I have to say
thank
that.
you, sir.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will now proceed with the election of the vice chair. Nominations will be made by board members from the floor. Please be advised of the following, same as before. A nomination does not need a second. Commissioner is permitted to nominate himself or herself. A commissioner cannot nominate more than one person until everyone has had the opportunity to make nominations, and a commissioner can decline the nomination during the nominating process.
I'm happy to nominate Sarah Kirsch as vice chair.
All right. Are there any further nominations for vice chair? All right. The nominations are now closed for chair. All those in favor of Sarah Kirsch for vice chair must say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, and Commissioner Kirsch is elected vice chair. All right.
Okay.
Congratulations, Sarah, on your nomination and election as vice chair.
Okay, I think that's the end of the agenda. If there's no further business of the board, on the behalf of the chair, may I have a motion to adjourn the annual meeting? And a second.
All right.
And, which I know we don't necessarily need, but thank you. It's been moved by Commissioner Kirsch and seconded by Commissioner Faruqi. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those are abstentions. The annual meeting is adjourned. The time is 2:48 p.m. And we will proceed directly with the AH Affiliates annual meeting. And as I had mentioned previously, we have, at the suggestion with the recommendations of our commissioners, combine the meetings. Our Deputy General Counsel will run us through the script, and you will be indicated when we need your either vote or to identify yourself as present. And I will We'll now turn the floor over to Deputy General Counsel Heather Ankrum.
Good afternoon. At this time, I would like to ask our IT professionals to start the audio tape recordings of the annual meetings of AH affiliates and to admit any members of the public who've chosen to listen to the meeting online.
Recording has started. The public has been let in.
Thank you. My name is Heather Ankrum, and I serve as Deputy General Counsel of the Housing Authority of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, also known as Atlanta Housing, or AH. Before the AH affiliate annual meetings are called to order, please consider the following announcements. We will conduct a collective meeting for the 9 AH affiliate entities. We welcome the members of the public who have joined us in person in the Pecan Room at the Atlanta Housing headquarters for these annual meetings of the Board of Directors of 230 John Wesley Dobbs Boulevard Ventures, Inc., Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc., Atlanta Housing Development Corporation, Atlanta Housing Investment Company, Inc., Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc., Renaissance Affordable Housing, Inc., Special Housing and Home Ownership, Inc., Strategic Resource Development Corporation, and Westside Affordable Housing, Inc., collectively referred to as the affiliates. We also welcome the members of the public who have joined this joint meeting of the affiliates via audio conference. There's also an option to view the meeting live streamed. Members of the public can find the Atlanta Housing Board Docs link in the Notices section on the Atlanta Housing website. The live streaming link is also contained on Atlanta Housing Board Docs. The live streaming link and copies of the meeting agendas and board resolutions for the affiliates are available for review by the public by accessing the link on the Atlanta Housing website at www.atlantahousing.org/notices. On behalf of the presidents of 230 John Wesley Dobbs Boulevard Ventures, Inc., hereafter 230 JWD, Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc., hereafter AFI, Atlanta Housing Development Corporation, hereafter AHDC, Atlanta Housing Investment Company, Inc., hereafter AHIC, Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc., hereafter AHOY, Renaissance Affordable Housing, Inc., hereafter RAH, Special Housing and Home Ownership, Inc., hereafter SHHI, Strategic Resource Development Corporation, hereafter SRDC, and Westside Affordable Housing, Inc., hereafter WAH. I am calling this annual meeting of the Boards of Directors of the affiliates to order. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd, and the time is 2:52 p.m. I will now take the roll to determine a quorum for this joint meeting. Director Larry Stewart,
Here.
Director Sarah Kirsch,
Here.
Director Rosalind Elliott, Director Rosalind Elliott, Director Duria Faruqi,
Here.
Director Douglas Hooker, Director Douglas Hooker, Director Joel Alvarado,
Here.
Director Tony Martin, Director Terry Lee, Director Fenice Taylor. I confirm there is an in-person quorum of directors present for all of the affiliates. The directors have been provided with the directors list for each of the affiliates so they can see for which affiliate they serve as a director. Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, Hooker, Martin, Taylor, and Lee, I will need each of you directors to vote upon the upcoming agenda items. The agenda has been presented to the boards of directors of the affiliates for review and comment. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion from Director Stewart and a second from Director Lee to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
So moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director Lee. Is there any discussion?
Am I doing something else? Sorry.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay.
discussion.
Hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Hearing no nays and no abstentions, the motion is carried. The minutes for each of the annual meetings of the boards of directors for the affiliates held on September 27th, 2023 are before the directors for review and comment. Are there any proposed corrections to the minutes of these meetings? Hearing none, may I have a motion from Director Stewart and a second from Director Lee to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Directors, before you are copies of resolution numbers JWD 2401, AFI 2401, AHDC 2401, AHIC 2402, AHOY 2401, RAH 2401, SHHI 2401, SRDC 2401, and WAH 2401, seeking authorization to elect officers. May I have a motion from Director Stewart and a second from Director Lee to approve resolution numbers JWD 2401, AFI 2401, AHDC 2401, AHIC 2402, AHOY 2401, RAH 2401, SHHI 2401, SRDC 2401, and WAH 2401.
So moved.
So moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director Lee.
Okay.
We will now have
Okay.
a presentation by Lisa Washington.
Again, happy to field any questions, but the presentation will be brief. The resolutions, which of course were presented to the board, the directors of the affiliates boards in advance, reconfirm the appointment of Terry Lee as president, Dwayne Vaughn as vice president, Lisa Washington as secretary, and Heather Ankrum as assistant secretary for the officers, elected officers for each of the boards of the affiliates. And if it is the pleasure of the boards of directors of these affiliates to reconfirm those officers, now move forward with the vote. I'm sorry, unless there are any questions.
Is there any discussion related to the motion? Hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All in favor of resolution numbers JWD 2401, AFI 2401, AHDC 2401, AHIC 2402, AHOY 2401, RAH 2401, SHHI 2401, SRDC 2401, and WAH 2401. Please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Directors of Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc., specifically Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee. Before you is a copy of resolution number AFI 2402, where Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc. seeks authorization to take all actions necessary to consummate the closing of Bowen Homes Phase 1. May I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number AFI 2402?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved by Director Faruqi and seconded by Director Kirsch. We will now have a presentation by Maya Hodari.
Good afternoon. So I just wanted to share a little bit of information about this particular resolution. It's pertaining to Bowen Phase 1, which is the first residential phase under our Bowen C&I grant. and we're slated to complete the closing within the upcoming month. We've come before the board a few times just giving information, so I'll be quick. This phase will create approximately 151 new residential or rental units, including 48 that will be AH subsidized. It'll be on approximately 3.52 acres of land. The total development cost is approximately $69.7 million, and there'll be a ground lease with a term of approximately 75 years, and the developer will make a ground lease payment of approximately $1.8 million. So we are seeking approval for the Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc. to participate, have owner interest in the owner entity at 30%, to complete the financial closing, execute the necessary documents, and provide the necessary funding. So I invite any questions.
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee, all in favor of Resolution AFI 2402, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposals? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Directors of Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc., specifically Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee, before you is a copy of Resolution AFI 2403, where Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc. seeks authorization to take all actions necessary to consummate the closing of Bowen Homes Phase 1. May I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution AFI 2403?
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director Faruqi. Ms. Hodari will be presenting.
Okay, this is Maya Hodari. I just want to clarify, this is specific to Inglewood Phase 1A? Okay, so.
Yeah, I think it was read wrong. It was, yeah, we reread Bowen. I think we need to read
Yes, it
Englewood.
should
Okay.
be Inglewood
Yeah.
Phase 1A.
You want to reread it, or should I go on?
I'll reread it for the
Okay.
record. Directors, before you is a copy of Resolution AFI 2403, where Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc. seeks authorization to take all actions necessary to consummate the closing of Inglewood Phase 1A.
Okay, should I go? Okay. So we're seeking approval from the Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc. to participate in the Inglewood Phase 1A owner entity with 30% interest, and to complete the financial closing, execute all the necessary documents, and provide any necessary funding. So just a little bit of information about Inglewood Phase 1A. This is a multi-family phase, and it's the second rental development that's occurring on our Inglewood Manor site. The Phase 1B development is currently underway, as well as infrastructure at the site. This particular development will create 200 multifamily units at the site, of which 100 are AH subsidized. The total development cost for this phase is approximately $87.8 million. Our AH loan amount is a little over $7.7 million. The ground lease term is for 75 years, and there'll be a ground lease payment of $375,000. So with that overview, I'd like to invite any questions.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee, all in favor of Resolution AFI 2403, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Directors of Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc., specifically Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee, before you is a copy of Resolution AFI 2404, where Atlanta Affordable Housing for the Future, Inc. seeks authorization to take all actions necessary to consummate the closing of the Sylvan Hills 2 development. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Director Kirsch and seconded by Director Faruqi. We will now have a presentation by Maya Hodari.
Good afternoon. So we're seeking AFI's approval to participate on AH's behalf in the owner entity with 15% interest and complete the financial closing as well as execute the necessary documents and provide the necessary funding. So Sylvan Hills Phase 2 will create 233 units, and it will include 24 that are subsidized using the Home Flex, the Partners for Home, so they're Haven Home units. So 24 of the 233. There will be a total development cost of $51.2 million, and the AH loan amount is $10 million. The ground lease term is going to be approximately 65 years, and there's a nominal ground lease payment by the owner. So I'd like to invite any questions that you all have about Sylvan Hills 2.
What is the standard lease, ground lease duration? I feel like 65 is not something I hear all the time.
We have had a number of developments recently that have 65-year ground lease terms.
I see. Is that like, is that just typical in the space, or is it more or less? Like, I'm curious about.
It's primarily driven by what the developer can get their lenders comfortable with. So there's been a shift. You know, originally people wanted 99-year ground lease terms, and in current years they've really been comfortable with the much less.
Sarah, do you have a point of view about this?
Yeah, I mean, in stick-built construction, that is probably an appropriate duration of the life of the asset, which this will be stick-built construction.
Yeah, it will.
Our philanthropic funds require 65 years or longer of affordability.
Perfect. That's kind of what I wanted to get at. Is it just sort of a standard expectation? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Can I ask if Maya Hodari is going to go through the others? Does she want to speak to them, and then we can vote subsequently?
I think this will be the last one that,
Oh, okay.
that
All
Maya
right.
will
Thank
do.
you.
Just the 2000 Perry one.
Yeah, I believe we have two additional items past this one, 2000 Perry, and then Dr. Ferguson will speak to an amendment to the Housing Opportunity Bond under the Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc. Is that correct?
That's correct. See,
I
is
just
correct.
feel like we're making her sit down and stand up each time. So
No,
if she
no,
wants
she
to
can-
go,
she can
let's
stay-
have her go.
No. As soon as we finish this one, I say, Maya, please stay, so we can do
Okay.
2000 Perry, and then Dr. Ferguson will come up to do the Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc.
Are there any further discussions? If not, I will call for the vote. Director Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee, all in favor of Resolution AFI 2404, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Directors of Westside Affordable Housing, Inc., specifically Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Faruqi, Hooker, and Lee. Before you is a copy of Resolution WAH 2402, where Westside Affordable Housing, Inc. seeks authorization to take all necessary action to consummate the closing of 2000 Perry Boulevard. May I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution WAH 2402?
So move.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director Faruqi. Maya?
Okay, so I'm Maya Hodari. So currently, the 7.2 acres at 2000 Perry are slated to be used to create approximately 71 new for-sale homes, of which 30% will be affordable. This site is currently owned by Westside Affordable Housing, Inc. So we're seeking Westside Affordable Housing, Inc.'s approval to complete the closing and execute all necessary documents to actually convey the site and allow the developer to begin the construction of the new 71 for-sale units, including 22 that will be affordable for buyers with earnings up to 80% of AMI. We received the HUD disposition approval in June of 2024. So I'd like to invite any questions.
Move for approval.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, I will call for the vote. Director Stewart, Kirsch, Faruqi, Hooker, and Lee, all in favor of Resolution WAH 2402, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Deputy General Counsel, I just want, for the record, I would like to note that Commissioner Hooker is not present.
Got it. Thank you. Directors of Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc., specifically Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee. Before you is a copy of Resolution Ahoy 2402, where Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc. seeks authorization to execute a fourth amended and restated intergovernmental housing cooperation agreement with the City of Atlanta in order to make certain modifications to the Housing Opportunity Program. May I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution number Ahoy 2402?
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director Kirsch. Dr. Allen Ferguson will be presenting.
All right, good afternoon, Board of Commissioners, Chairman Stewart. So the item that you have before you today is a resolution to amend portions of conditions under the Housing Opportunity Bond Program. You know, as you're familiar, last summer in 2023, the City of Atlanta, Invest Atlanta, under their affiliate, or Residential Finance Authority, IRFA, and Atlanta Housing, as well as the affiliate, AHOY, Atlanta Housing Opportunity, Inc., came together for another housing opportunity bond issuance for $100 million. Under that bond issuance, certain terms were laid out in regards to the programs and how they're administered. So to get to the gist of this particular amendment, we're asking for changes within the guidelines for that particular program to adjust for primarily single-family housing. So what you'll see within the resolution requested change for single-family loans to move from allowing up to a maximum of 120% of AMI up to 140% of AMI. You'll also see a request under the owner-occupied rehab program to allow for 5% of the bond allocation to be allocated towards administrative costs. And those administrative costs are really to facilitate the eligibility of residents getting access to the program. So think of costs such as providing counseling for, heirs property, resolving deed reconciliations, as well as providing more program outreach to get more residents involved and engaged on the program and remove those barriers. And the third component is under the Housing Production Fund. Those are the dollars actually that are accessed by the AUDC. And what the amendment allows is for the inclusion of single-family loans in addition to multifamily loans, which are already allowed under that Housing Production Fund. So if you have any additional questions or want any detailed responses about those amendments, I'm available to provide them, but we ask for your approval on this item.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Directors Stewart, Kirsch, Alvarado, Faruqi, and Lee, all in favor of Resolution AHOY 2402, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
All right, thank you.
If there's no further business of these boards, may I have a motion from Director Stewart and a second from Director Lee to adjourn this joint meeting?
So moved.
So moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director Lee. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? This joint meeting is adjourned at 3:13 p.m.